Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
What's going on, Fantasy Champs? Welcome back to the pod, show 3 of the week. Next week, we'll bring you 4 episodes, like I was saying. My name is Morgan Colby. I got Rick Lemon with me, as always. What's crackin', big dog?
What's up?
Last episode, 20 minutes long. We try to, even more condensify this for you. But we broke down our, shows into our starts and sits version of our show from last year into 2 separate shows. So must starts and then must sits, which is today. These are players you have to sit for week 1. No choice. No choices. You have to sit these players for week 1 because if you don't, you're going to lose. You're going to lose your game. So that is what we're going to be talking about today. How you doing, Rick?
Good. I'm jealous of the listeners who at this point have probably at least watched 1 football game, maybe 2, depending on when this comes out.
Yeah, probably. They'll definitely.
And we're sitting here on Wednesday, pre-recording this, not watching any football.
Yeah, by the way, if something happens to any of these players before whenever it goes out, I apologize.
Yeah, we do record this on Wednesday.
Yeah, we do record it. So if somebody's like, oh my God, what the frick? I can't help you with that, buddy. Can't help you with that. But anyway, yeah. So we're going to talk about players you have to sit for week 1. We're going to talk about 5 guys. Might switch to 6 so we can talk about 1 tight end at least. So you guys get some tight end action in there. Everyone loves a good tight end. Before we do that, check out our website. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. All those good platforms typed up the FF Champs. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and your podcasting platforms, please leave a review. Share this podcast with your friends. If you're watching YouTube, subscribe, click the bell for notifications, like, and comment down below. Excited to talk about this. I'm excited the season's back. I ain't gonna lie. I don't know if it sounds like I'm excited, but I'm freaking lit. I'm kind of at the point where I'm like, I'm excited the season is back, but like I'm excited to watch now, and I'm like still waiting. It's like been the entire off season, but I'm still in the phase of waiting.
We're still technically, as we're recording this,
waiting.
Waiting. We still haven't started the NFL season yet. So.
And like Sunday's the best. Like you get to Sunday and it's
Sunday is the best.
I love being overwhelmed.
I do. I will say I love having a Friday game. Doing a Thursday game
you get to
start the season, and then you get a Friday game. And if you're into college football, you got Saturday.
I can tell you who doesn't like that.
Me.
My wife.
Oh.
My wife does not like that.
I just said don't like that before people go crazy. I don't really watch college football that much, so I don't really care about Saturday games. But everything else.
Yes, so on Sunday though, like when you start watching the games, there's so many opinions and takes and things that you've been looking out for as the season goes along. Like I was just like thinking about it today, and I'm like, wait a minute, I get to watch the Vikings.
Yep.
Who knows? Maybe Sam Darnold is a resurrected soul like Geno Smith.
Yeah, that would be great.
Unlikely. That would be awesome for me. I'd love
the Justin Jefferson people.
Dude, if Aaron Jones scores 4 touchdowns in a game on Monday Night Football for me, I'll lose it.
Running it back to 2019 or whatever.
He does it every year besides last year.
Okay.
But anyway. All right, let's talk about some players you have to sit for week 1 and then send you on your merry way this weekend and tell you to enjoy the grand old sport of the NFL. Number 1, Brian Robinson at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay, classic over the last couple of years, especially under Todd Bowles, has been very good in the Brady years and that's funny that I can say the Brady years for the Bucs now because we had the Brady years and now they have some Brady years. And either way, Todd Bowles was there the whole time. So their run defense has been very good with Vita Vea in the middle. Oh my gosh, it's been so scary.
And he is still there, alive and well.
Alive and well, still there, making offense.
They also drafted last year, not to take a deep dive into this, but Kalijah Kancey in the first round, who's a defensive tackle.
Yeah.
And he had a great rookie season. So he's a very good player.
They're just running out the 3-4 or 4-3.
Yeah, they're fun. At least those 2 guys especially are very good.
Who needs pass rushers? Who needs pass rushers when you got big boys inside?
Right?
That's what she said. But anyway, so it's going to be tough sledding for Brian Robinson of the Washington Commanders. This is a tough first matchup for Jaden Daniels too, man. He's gonna be struggle bussing it.
Well, the
Against a
Bucks,
really
at
good
least
Bucks
last year,
defense.
they had a great front, but their secondary was trash. So maybe that helps.
Maybe that
But
helps a little.
I don't know how it's going to play out this year. So it could be
Yeah.
a tough matchup week 1.
But Brian Robinson, definitely not a guy. Not really been a guy that I've been interested in fantasy football really at all over the last couple years. Hold on a second. Yeah. I'm trying to find his profile for.
Yeah, I'll say like Brian Robinson for me
really quickly because
I haven't either, and I wanted to be kind of in on him this year, and then I was like trying to talk myself into it, and I couldn't do it.
Looked at his
because Jaden Daniels is going to get some rushing touchdowns. He's going to take that away. And last year he had 43 targets, so it looked like they were finally using him in the passing game.
Yeah,
because his rookie season he had 12, so like they didn't use him at all as a rookie. Second year he has 43. And then they sign Austin Eckler, who's going to be the pass-catching running back. So he's not a pass-catching running back. And you have a quarterback that's going to take away some goal line touchdowns. And it's not like an elite offense. So it's three negatives in a row.
I've never seen a running
and he's got a tough matchup in week 1.
I've never seen a running back more forced into a role than this guy.
Yeah.
Like, just like drafting him and being like, oh, no, we're going to make him good. And then he's just not. I mean, when you look at his efficiency metrics, they're just buns. Like, it's not good.
I do think he'll have some good games this year, like he did last year.
He was fantasy points per game in PPR, running back 22 last year, and finished as a running back 21. So he's not like, and he's a good floor play, but like when he gets when you have a floor play running back who gets a bad matchup, it typically doesn't work out for you.
Right. Like he's going to get you like 8 points this week, and you're going to wish you started someone else at your flex or your second running back spot.
Sure. So, yeah, don't start Brian Robinson at Tampa Bay. Do you have any more thoughts on this, dude?
No, we can move on. Next guy.
All right, next guy. Tell us about David Montgomery versus the Los
Okay,
Angeles
so this
Rams.
one is I'll preface this and say this is mostly you.
Okay.
It's a hot take in my opinion.
I want to hear what you have.
David Montgomery could be a lock for a touchdown. But I will say this. And I brought this up and you said you give a counterpoint. I do think could be a shootout. And you said that would benefit Gibbs, which is very true. I think that Dave Montgomery could very easily get a rushing touchdown, but how much is he going to get utilized in a game that could be very pass heavy?
Yeah.
And it's a good question. And there'll be games this year where I'm going to be on the Dave Montgomery stardom train because the Lions will play some bum team and they're going to be running the ball the entire second half, and Dave Montgomery is going to get 25 carries and 3 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. Or maybe not that level, but he's going to have a game where he gets a lot of carries. This game might not be one of them. This might be one of the couple games this year where it's going to be a shootout. Yeah. There's even a chance that the Rams, if they take an early lead and the Lions are playing from behind, we won't see Montgomery out on the field. It could be a really big Gibbs game. But I think this is more of a Morgan take, so you can go ahead and take the rest.
I think the biggest thing is, the Rams did last year, and coming into this year, they do have a good run defense. They may not have like an elite defense overall, but they do have a good run defense, and it's going to be harder for David Montgomery and DeAndre Swift to run the ball. But I think the main point is, like Rick said, I do believe this is going to be a game where they're going to be having to throw the ball a significant amount, and in which case, I don't know how much... Like, you might get a trash time touchdown from David Montgomery or something stupid like that. But I don't know how much he's going to get opportunity on the ground and through the air in a game that Jahmyr Gibbs is going to have to be out there, especially if, like, I don't anticipate Detroit being behind in the game because I think they'll probably win it. But if it is a shootout and they're passing it the entire time, like, there is not much opportunity for Montgomery to really be. So if he's not getting opportunity and it's going to be tougher for him to run, I don't see the ceiling being high. So the only thing that you have with David Montgomery this week is the hopes that he gets a touchdown. Now, betting Rick would say, bet on David Montgomery touchdown. But I would say for fantasy football purposes, that's not a great bet for me. Just saying like, hey, okay, David Montgomery's going to score a touchdown. Well, if he scores a touchdown,
if he doesn't score a touchdown, you're screwed.
He has 30 yards and no catches, or 40 yards and no catches. Like, even if he scores a touchdown, he ends up with 9 to 10 fantasy points. It's like, if you have a better option, go with it. You know what I mean?
No, I agree. I don't want to rain on the parade, but I will say that one of the reasons the Rams had a good rush defense last year was because they had arguably one of the best defensive players of all time, who is now retired, Aaron Donald.
He wasn't on the team last year.
Did he retire last year?
Yeah.
Yeah, am I tripping?
Aaron Donald didn't play.
Are we sure? Did he retire this offseason or last offseason?
Let me check. I'll check right now because I want to confirm.
I'm pretty sure he retired this offseason.
Are you sure?
Oh, he played last year, 2023.
Yep.
16 games.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah, that could be the case. But
so their run defense might be cheeks this year. But we'll see. I mean, I do think you make a valid point. I don't like he's so reliant on touchdowns. If he does not score a touchdown this week,
I think in,
like
in median and like good matchups, he's a guy that's a good floor play. So like because he's gonna rush it 15 times for 80 yards, like almost every game. So it's like if that happens and then he adds a catch here or there, like he'll get 10 points a game, which is fine. But he's gonna need the touchdown to buoy him. And I think against tougher matchups, which is what I see this as, regardless of Aaron Donald being there or not, because he was kind of old last year. But like that isn't great for a start for David Montgomery at this point this week. But anyway, all right, let's talk about the next guy, Courtland Sutton at Seattle. This is Rick's guy, so I'll let him go on Courtland Sutton.
Yeah. Courtland Sutton against Seattle. I think a lot of people, I don't know. I mean, I do know why, but there's been some people who are getting on the Courtland Sutton train in the media and on X that I've seen.
Denver was like, what's a receiver?
Right. And that's why. I mean, the receiving room looks kind of weird, and Courtland Sutton's the clear number one receiver there, so I get it. And there's people hyping him up, people drafting him higher than they were a few weeks ago. He's going to be in a decent amount of starting lineups. I would not start him. First of all, it's Bo Nix's first career game. Mm-hmm. What are the expectations for him there? I think Seattle's defense is better than what it was last year. They have two very good corners. I know they drafted one last year. And I want to say they drafted one this year, but their secondary, they've been building that the last few years, and it looks pretty good. And now you bring in a defensive-minded coach in Mike McDonald. They should have a pretty good defense. The game is in Seattle. It would take maybe some like trash time points for me to play Courtland Sutton, but it's not something that I want to personally do against a team that has really good corners, a really good secondary, a defensive-minded head coach, and your quarterback is playing in his first career NFL game.
Yeah, all fair points. And I think Courtland Sutton, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm going to look this up right now, but he's more of like a contested,
he's a pure X
downfield receiver.
Yes, he's not a volume guy.
So, I mean, Bo Nix doesn't really Nix doesn't really fit that mold.
Maybe he would sling it a little bit.
Maybe I'm going out on a limb.
I think he could. He can do it. It's just it's not going to be
great. I don't think they're going to ask him to do it.
I don't think it'll be often. Yes, I think it.
Yeah, I don't know that like early, especially in the first game against Mike McDonald. Like I don't think that. I mean, who knows? Maybe. I mean, Sean Payton's kind of a lunatic, so maybe he does. But I don't think they're going to ask him to do that. At the end of the day, I think they'll probably try to incorporate Courtland Sutton in different ways. But I do agree. I think this is a tougher one. Like to me, I think Courtland Sutton is kind of like like he's already on the downward turn of his career. We kind of saw a little bit of that last year, and this year it's only going to continue. And I don't think week 1 of the NFL season against one of the tougher defenses in the league this year is going to make me feel more positive about Courtland Sutton. You know what I mean? So I think that you're going to start to see the decline of Courtland Sutton, and whether that means guys like Marvin Mims or the younger guys on the team start to step into like bigger roles, or maybe the tight end Greg Dulcich gets revived and starts getting involved. I don't know, or they're just going to run it 150 million times or dump it off 150 million times. I don't know what they're going to do, but I think Courtland Sutton is definitely going to be. It's going to be a difficult game for him, and I think a lot of people are going to be disappointed at Courtland Sutton's production.
And he'll make. I mean, I think he's going to have like 5 catches or 4 catches for 50 yards.
Sure.
Something like he'll still be like 7 or 8 targets. So like he'll still be involved, but it's definitely like he'll have a floor. He'll be
Mhm.
involved. He'll score like 8-9 fantasy points.
Sure.
But it's not something I'm trying to start.
Okay, fair enough. All right, now I'll give my crazy hot take guy because both of them are crazy hot takes, I guess. But it's Amari Cooper versus the Dallas Cowboys.
I like this one a little more, I'll say.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Cooper, Rick and I have been projecting the age cliff, and it's hard to project the age cliff, with any guy, especially when you look at last year. Like Keenan Allen was screaming his. I read his RP reception perception profile from the previous year, and I was like, this guy's gonna hit the age cliff. It's happening, and then all of a sudden, he stuck around for a little bit longer. Cooper was another one of those guys where I was like, this guy, there's no way. He's just too old. Like 29, a little bit scary, but he was great last year. Wide receiver 20. He was number 17 in fantasy points per game in PPR. So he put up really good numbers last year. The vaunted fantasy points per target totals, you want them like up around 1.8 to 2. He was 1.77, so right there. So like if he gets targeted, he was efficient with that target share. I just think he's 30 years old, and it's almost time for Cleveland to. It's almost time for Amari Cooper to kind of take a step back at this point. And they did add Jerry Jeudy this offseason. I don't know how effective he's going to be. I know definitely having Amari Cooper on the opposite side of him is going to help him a lot, but I just don't think Cooper's going to have a really great season this year. So that's just an overarching take. But against the Dallas Cowboys with Deron Bland,
yeah,
I don't love it. I don't love it, Bob. Not a great week for him. And Dallas is a tough defense. They're going to make it tough on Deshaun Watson. They're going to make it tough on the receivers. And this is a week where I would sit Amari Cooper because I just don't think he's going to have that great a week. I know you drafted him high, but I would have suggested not drafting him, period, if you had the opportunity, which I did not do.
Yeah, I mean, this is a tough one because he's probably a lot of people's wide receiver too on their team. I am not as low on Cooper as I think Morgan is, but I am lower than consensus. I think one other problem that you didn't really bring up that I can add is what is Deshaun Watson at this point? Do we know?
The corpse?
Because what we've seen of him post Houston has been terrible. And we have not seen any signs yet of him being back to being a good quarterback. Because if he plays like he did last year and the year before, and he gets hurt again, like it's not going to be good for Amari Cooper.
And the dudes that revived Joe Flacco's career for 5 minutes are now in New England. So,
yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of question marks with Cleveland in general, and Amari Cooper, like to me, last year is probably a year earlier. Like 29 years old is still, in your prime, I think, for a receiver. And he does have a lot of traction on his legs, which I think is one of the reasons we were nervous. But I don't think the cliff is there yet for him. Like I think at 30 years old he can still produce, but
Cliff.
it is a possibility still, right? Once you hit 30, it's like you never know. For a lot of
he's still
position players.
He's still the number one guy there in Cleveland, but it's just tough.
Yes. I'm more worried about just Deshaun Watson and how that passing game is going to look in general. But just for this week 1 against Dallas, as you said, just a really tough matchup. Dallas has a great defense all around, especially with their front like Micah Parsons, but their secondary is good. They got Trayvon Diggs coming back, who I know gets burned a lot, but will also make some big plays. I have a feeling he's probably not going to be on Amari Cooper, but either way, they have a very good defense. I think this game could be an ugly one, a slugfest between the Browns and Cowboys, even though it's a primetime game at the 4:25 game on Fox. Could be ugly. I could be wrong, but I feel like it could be ugly. So yeah, I wouldn't start Amari Cooper probably if I had better options. I am a little nervous because this is a revenge game against the Cowboys, but overall, I don't love the matchup.
Yeah, I don't love the matchup either. All right, number 5 finally, and we'll end this show real quick. Aaron versus the San Francisco 49ers. They're in San
This is an
Fran.
easy one.
This is on a Friday night game. I like Aaron Rodgers. Like, I actually kind of like him this season. And
Whoa.
yeah, a little bit different. A little bit different of a take that I've developed over the last couple of weeks, not telling you about. I don't mind Aaron Rodgers for fantasy football.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm surprised by that.
I think the Jets are going to be good. Obviously, as long as they've been good defensively for a couple of years now, and
I'm very surprised you are saying this.
As long as Rodgers is kind of mid, like, they should win football games. I think they're going to get bounced in the first round.
Fair.
And I think Rodgers, I don't know how great Rodgers is going to be, but they're going to ask him to do a lot. And there are going to be weeks where you're going to want to start Aaron Rodgers. Now, I'm not saying that Rodgers is going to be just to calm down my take, so Rick doesn't think I'm completely lost in my mind. I bumped my head this morning and I just flipped all my takes on the Jets. I do think Rodgers is just a streaming option that's rosterable, and there's a floor play situation. Like in fantasy drafts, I was doing a lot of taking Jaden Daniels and then Aaron Rodgers, right? So like Rodgers is a good floor play that I can play, maybe early in the season or at certain points in case I don't trust Jaden Daniels. But this is not one of those moments for Aaron Rodgers. He's going against San Fran. So like if there's a better option, I would do it. I think it's going to start a little bit rough for them. I don't think Rodgers is going to have a big game. And he doesn't provide any rushing. So it's like,
no, zero.
He's going to have to, for him to have fantasy points, he's going to have to throw like 3 touchdowns.
Post Achilles Rodgers is going to be like Brady. Like, I don't think he's going to have more than like 60 rushing yards on the season.
No, right.
No, I agree 100% with everything you said. Like with Rodgers overall in the season, I think he's going to be a good streaming option.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't really have any rushing though. So, and I don't know how good. Like, this is also his first game back from the torn Achilles in San Francisco, which is a top 5 defense on a Monday night game. So, I don't mind Rodgers either this year as a streaming option. I think there'll be really good weeks for him here and there, but it shouldn't be this one against San Francisco. And even if he does, it's one of those games where I'd be willing to be wrong about, because you're betting on a guy coming off his first game back from an injury against a top 5 defense. Yeah. Like, it's one of those things you just want to see play before you go out there and you're starting him in weeks.
Right. And I was, like I said, I was originally starting him as like some kind of floor play, and I can't even do that because I'm like, he's playing San Fran. But who knows? Maybe he lights it up and we're all stupid.
Maybe.
But there you go. 5 players you have to sit this week. Going into week 1, Brian Robinson, David Montgomery, Courtland Sutton, Amari Cooper, Aaron Rodgers. There's football this weekend, fellas. Be sure to check out all the football. Make your starts and sits. And enjoy the football this weekend. See you later, guys.
See you.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube, and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.